Colombia, the good and the bad. If you've ever considered relocation to Colombia, you need to watch this to the very end because I'm going to share some very important information, very beneficial information that can help you make your decision whether it's Panama or Colombia, for example. Now, we just got back from a little over a week in Colombia. Got back in Panama about 7:30 this morning. Had to go get my dogs because I missed my dogs very badly. Had to take an old man nap because we've been up since 2 o'clock this morning to go to the airport. But I've been filtering some of the information I want to share with you. Number one, I'm watching the gato solo out of the corner of my eye. Make sure he ain't going to attack my ankles here in a minute. They love coming onto my carport. Anyways, the number one thing that you need to know, Colombia, when compared to Panama, and just about anywhere in the United States, but Colombia versus Panama, Colombia is so much cheaper. And just about every aspect, housing, grocery costs, going out to eat, in fact, I did a breakdown that me personally of how I'm living right now, living in my big 3-bedroom house here in Panama in Los Rios. Going out to eat, groceries and everything. Now, this is going to shock you, but on the low end, I would save $16,000 a year if I were living in Colombia versus Panama, and just a totally equivalent mismo life. All right, same size house, going out to eat, grocery shopping for two, everything. I'm not including my car insurance, nothing like that. I'm just the basics, all right? Because in Antioquia, in Rio Negro, for example, your utility cost is basically nothing because you don't have an air conditioner, you don't have a heater. The temperature is always really nice. A lot of the houses have fireplaces if it gets a little chilly at night, but $16,000 a year on the low end. On a high end, probably $21,000 a year I would save. That is significant, right? That is significant. The other thing is this: cleanliness. Colombia is very clean. One of the biggest complaints I get about Panama, including myself, is that Panama is kind of trashy, right? They view trash in a different way. In Colombia, you see recycling bins outside just about every restaurant, every mall, every strip center. I mean, it's night and day, right? And I'm only sharing things with you that jumped out, and cleanliness was one of the big ones. The culture is vibrant in Colombia. It's like when I mention culture, I'm including a little bit of everything. I'm talking about conversation. My wife we were asking a lot of questions with the Colombians in Jardín and El Retiro and Rio Negro. What's the cost of living? How much do you pay? Yeah, and we were asking a lot of questions, and every time we'd ask a question, we were getting into 30-minute conversations with complete strangers. All right, that doesn't happen in Panama as much, right? Now, something else that, and this is going to be a sore spot, but the traffic, much more polite and respectful than Panama. You all know what I mean. I drive every day. Some of you drive every day. Some of you are in the traffic. Traffic is a different animal in Panama. In Colombia, it was distinctly different. I don't think I heard anybody honk a horn in 8 days. But anyways, I don't want to complain about the country that I love, which is Panama. But now I want to share with you the bad. All right, because this is a big deal. Renting, even though it's cheap, is difficult. Why is it difficult? Because it's not 1 month's deposit plus 1 month's rent like it is here in Panama. Renting in Panama is normally pretty easy, other than dealing with some owners for various reasons and some of the realtors here. It's much easier in Panama to rent in Colombia. There's a thing called a fiador. Fiador is kind of like a cosigner. If you don't have a fiador, and most people don't in Colombia, then you're going to have difficulty renting unless you put down a significant amount. And it's not really classified as a deposit because deposits on real estate is illegal in Colombia, based on everything that I've read and what I've been told. But they've kind of sidestepped that, and they're calling it something different, and they keep the money in escrow. But one of the houses I looked at, beautiful house, very, very affordable. They're like, well, we got to have 6 months, up front, plus 1 month's rent. And you get that 6 months back if you ever leave. That's a kind of a hurdle for a lot of people, right? Especially if you don't have a fiador. Another one just says, if you don't have a fiador, we're not renting to you. That's difficult. The last thing I want to share with you, and owning an immigration firm and I'm helping several people relocate to Colombia. The immigration residency process is not as cut and dried as it is in Panama. Panama residency is pretty simplistic and easy for pension, especially pensionado. And if you do a side by side, apples to apples comparison, Colombia is more difficult, and here's why. There's a lot of dexterity in immigration in Colombia. And the other thing is this: you don't get permanent residency till after 5 years in most cases. Even with like a marriage visa, which is me, you very likely could have to apply every 12 months until you hit that 5 year mark, and then you apply for permanent residency. So your cost of residency, and just in 2025 fees, which is about $1,450 total for everything. You could end up paying well over. There's the gato solo. You could pay well over $7,000 over 5 years. But let me backtrack. Over 5 years, I would have to pay a little over $7,000 for residency. But in the first 12 months, I'd save $16,000 minimum. So, that makes sense, but you need to know that. You need to be aware of it, that getting residency there, you need to be prepared to put down a significant amount of money to rent a house, even though a house is cheap and the houses are beautiful and there's a large inventory of houses and apartments to rent. All right. But be prepared to walk up and say, I've got 6 months to put down to get into a contract. And the second thing is, you may be applying for residency 5 times in the first 5 years. As long as you know that, Colombia is a wonderful, wonderful place to reside.